Hi everybody, and welcome to a video I like to call Jane Doe and the Snow Protocol. What is the Snow Protocol? Well, I'm glad you asked. The Snow Protocol is a series of 10 steps created by Clyde Snow, who was a forensic anthropologist. He created these 10 steps in assisting to determine the identity of remains. Now, since there are 10 steps and we don't have a whole lot of time, we're going to talk about 3 of them: age, sex, and ancestry, because these are 3 of the most crucial steps and because they closely pertain to our case, which is the case of the Jamestown Jane Doe. Now, in order to get to know Jane, we're going to have to take a brief step back into history. The year is 1607, and the Jamestown English settlement had just settled in Virginia after a 144-day voyage from England to Virginia. They came to Virginia to establish claim over North America because, Native Americans didn't already live here or anything. Anyways, Jane would come a few years later on a ship with 6 other women. They were the only 6 women that had come to the colony. Now, within that year that Jane was there, they would end up facing a very harsh and very devastating winter. They would send a boat to back to England to get supplies, but the boat never came back. And winter would kick in, and over 200 people would die because of famine and freezing. So within that period of winter, they would end up partaking in some pretty gruesome behavior. They would start by eating their dogs and then their horses. Eventually, they would start eating the leather off of their belts. And after all these resources were depleted, they would partake in cannibalism. Now, there wasn't any proof that cannibalism existed until they found the remains of Jane Doe hundreds of years later. Jane's bones were found in Jamestown in a mix of animal and human bones. But this wasn't the reason that they established cannibalism as a result of something that happened in Jamestown. It was the cut marks on her skull that indicated that flesh had been removed and that her brain had been removed for consumption. Now, there were rumors from journals found in Jamestown, but this was the first concrete, hard evidence of cannibalism in Jamestown. So we know this Jane character was subject to cannibalism, but who was she? Well, just based off of what little remains we have of her, we're able to establish a few things about her. Based off of her skull shape, we are able to establish that Jane was female. Male and female skull shapes have a few significant differences and are commonly used to determine sex. Now, these key differences include men having more of a larger brow ridge and sloping forehead, while women tend to have a smaller brow ridge and more vertical forehead, and men to have more of a square chin, and women tend to have more of a wider angled chin. Men tend to have a larger mastoid process, which is this little ridge right on your right-hand side, and women tend to have a smaller mastoid process. Now, we were also able to use the measurements of Jane's tibia to determine that she was female because they took measurements of her tibia and compared them to other female skeletal remains, and the measurements were similar. Now, we were able to determine her sex based off of her teeth. Thankfully, we had most of her teeth, and teeth are very important indicators of not only sex, age, but they can also be used to determine ancestry. As far as her age goes, because toddlers to teenagers tend to have the best results for accurate age indication with their teeth, because children younger than 6 tend to still have their deciduous teeth or their baby teeth, and teenagers tend to not have their third molars yet or their wisdom teeth. Now, when we look at her teeth, she had unerupted third molars with partially formed roots. Third molars usually don't erupt until the age of 16 to 24, so we were able to establish that she is somewhere within the range of 12 to 14 years of age. But after measuring that tibia, it actually gets closer to 14. Now, how do we know that she wasn't Native American, perhaps? Well, they were able to measure the nitrogen and isotope levels in her bones, which indicated that she had a rich European diet of meat and wheat that she had maintained for a substantial amount of time. While in Virginia, the diet tends to be more corn-based. They also used the shape of her skull, which indicated European descent, because Europeans tend to have longer faces that are slimmer, and they tend to have closer together teeth and more vertical foreheads. And they also usually have circular orbits with square margins in their eyes, and these are commonly referred to as aviator glasses. While let's say that she was Asian, she might have shovel teeth, a smaller head, and just circular orbited eyes. These remains are what we have of Jane. And just with these remains, we were able to not only give her a face via CT scans, but we were also able to establish an identity for her. Now, her name was probably not Jane, but it would be pretty cool if it was. But just based off of these few remains, they did a lot. Imagine modern times with a full skeleton, how much they are able to accomplish. Without forensic anthropology, stories like Jane's might not have been able to be told. In fact, they probably wouldn't have been able to be told. Forensic anthropology is crucial in uncovering our history. Along with the steps of the Snow Protocol, stories like Jane's can finally be told. I really hope that you learned something out of this video today, and I really appreciate that you watched. Have a good day.